On August 5th, 2015, Shreveport police officer Thomas Joseph Lavalley made the ultimate sacrifice in the line of duty. And nearly a decade later, Lavalley's legacy continues to echo throughout the city he served and in the hearts of those who knew him best.
That's right. It's a tough day, not only for the city of Shreveport, but for us here at KTBS 3 as well. That's because before Thomas joined the force, he worked here behind the scenes as one of our talented photojournalists. Tonight, Madison Edwards honoring him in tonight's 70 for 70.
Before he wore the badge, Thomas Lavalley stood right here at KTBS 3 News, working behind the scenes and dreaming of something greater. In 2015, at just 29 years old, he paid the ultimate sacrifice doing just that.
Dispatch to Officer Thomas Joseph Lavalley, badge 1284. We thank you for your dedication.
In a city that's known its share of heartbreak, the name Thomas Lavalley still echoes with compassion and sacrifice. A young man from St. Amant, Louisiana, Thomas was more than a police officer. He was a friend, and to many, a hero.
Thomas Lavalley is a hero and will never be forgotten.
He was and he is a hero, not just a Shreveport Bossier, but he's a Louisiana hero and an American hero.
Thomas Lavalley worked as a photographer at KTBS 3, but after covering scenes of crimes, he heard a higher calling to protect and serve.
As we would cover stories, he got to know the police officers because we were, the crime scenes all the time, and he really just got that itch to, not necessarily cover crime, but to fight crime.
Chris Redford worked alongside Lavalley. The two were inseparable on and off the clock.
I mean, he was just instant kid brother. Just, we worked together 5 days a week. We hung out on the weekends. It doesn't seem like it's been 10 years. It seems like it's been 10 seconds now that I'm talking about it.
On the night of August 5th, 2015, Lavalley responded to an incident where a neighbor said Grover Cannon was threatening to kill his family. The officer did not know Cannon had a warrant for attempted second-degree murder. All he knew was that Cannon was armed, but he didn't hesitate.
He was doing what he loved. He did not hesitate to confront a bad person.
When a police officer dies, I think that's when the public realizes these guys did that for us. These guys didn't have to put on that uniform, get in that patrol car to go on their shift, but they just took a bullet, and in the end, it was for us.
Lavalley entered the house alone, his body microphone picking up the sounds of a conversation, and then immediate gunshots. After asking for assistance over the radio, 3 more shots were heard, then silence.
I saw the SWAT team, I saw the guys with helmets, I saw the guys with the biggest guns. It looked like a dude had a rocket launcher or something. It was so big, I couldn't leave my yard. No one can go outside. They told us to go inside.
SPD repeatedly warned neighbors of the danger and urged people to stay home. Around 11 p.m. that night, police knew exactly who they were looking for, and special reaction teams assembled outside Grover Cannon's home on Judson Street.
I got very afraid once I found out that a police was killed, and that's why the area was being canvassed.
A lot of police cars, a lot of drama, guns out. It was really scary.
Tributes to Lavalley can be found across Shreveport Bossier. This memorial in Betty, Virginia Park is maintained by the Boy Scouts of America. Chris Redford runs past it often. The bridge over Lake Bistineau in Bossier, where Lavalley would fish and canoe, has been renamed after the fallen hero.
He's more than a police officer. When you go through the park and you see his monument, when you go over that bridge, it's not just somebody, he's somebody's son, he's somebody's best friend.
Thomas Lavalley wasn't born to wear a badge, but he was made for it. His colleagues mourn every day they put on the uniform, not just for Lavalley, but for all fallen officers.
Thomas Lavalley, he was a good friend of mine, and upon losing Officer Lavalley, it was heartbreaking, and in many ways, you never really get over it. That's why it's a privilege for me to wear this uniform and in order to try to honor him and his memory, and that's why it's so important that we do everything we can to remember those lost in the line of duty and to wear this uniform with pride and respect so that we can always honor their memory.
That was KTBS 3's Madison Edwards reporting. In 2019, a Caddo Parish jury sentenced Grover Cannon to life in prison for Thomas's murder. In 2022, the Louisiana Second Circuit Court of Appeals affirming that conviction. And for so many folks, as we mentioned here, working behind the scenes, knowing Thomas, I knew him years ago from when I worked across the street at another station. You know, when you're reporters, you're out in the field, you go to scenes, and you know, like Chris Redford said, they were inseparable. They would go out on stories together. I was the nightside reporter at that other station, and you know, when you're out and you're covering all of these different scenes together, you know, you build that camaraderie, you build that companionship. And it, you know, for me, it was tough getting a phone call from a friend who worked here years ago, the day that it happened, and telling me about it. So it was, you know, it's terrible that it happened, because he really was just an incredible person. And full of,
so young.
so young, just full of life. And, you know, I don't think there was no one who did not like Thomas. He just had that, just had an energy about him, and just, again, just was an overall great guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for sharing those
just,
remarks.
You know, it's always tough, you know, just getting and hearing news like that. So, yeah.